Hello and welcome in to another episode of Red Cedar Radar. My name is Brad LaPlante, and I'm here, obviously, every time. My co-host, Sydney Padgett. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Oh, just, another day, another dollar. As you can see, we got some new setup here today in my little space. I got a light. So we got the light, right? Mm-hmm. You might see that in my glasses from time to time, and then also I'm facing the wall. That's a new thing. But also on the side right here to my left, there are some like panels for acoustic paneling, and wow. I don't know if that's helping the sound or not. But I did not stick them up the right way, and they have been falling down. So. I woke up and like 3 of them were on the floor, so not sure what's gonna happen.
During the middle of our recording session here today, one just falls and like lands on you, and then I just have to keep going because Brad's covered by an acoustic panel. But
so I was actually like, I'm not even joking. Maybe 2 hours ago, I was on a Zoom call with a hockey team that I'm doing a story for College Hockey News.
Yeah.
And one fell just in the middle of the
that's funny.
It's like a whole thing. And it wasn't like set up like this where if one falls, I don't know that you will hear it. I don't know that you'll see it. Right? Like that, I have this 27-inch Mac display, right? This Apple display, 27-inch that I just bought. And the nice thing about having it is it's basically an iMac without the Mac part. Like I have a separate Mac computer that I plug into it. And but my point is that like the sound comes from the monitor. The microphone is on the monitor because everything's just, again, it's literally an iMac without the Mac part. And so like you could, it's like if you had a laptop that, the laptop, like this microphone only catches what's right here, right? Like the monitor will catch everything. And it was just like this big, like thump on the floor. And it was very embarrassing, but we live and we do. So that's what we're doing. So anyway, if anyone's listening to the audio version of this podcast, consider watching the video on YouTube so you can see the amazing sign that I have behind me that I bought at the Meridian Mall for $40.
And because we are such good-looking people.
Of course. Yeah, that's it.
That's an added addition.
Well, it's cool too because I actually started using my expensive camera too, so you get to see that.
Yeah, you look nice and clear. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you look blurry and fuzzy. So
wow, that's rude, but that's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll remember that. Anyways, Moving on. What are we going to cover today, Brad?
Well, there's been a lot going on. Michigan State just had a huge victory. Yes, they did. Against Wisconsin. I wasn't sure if they would win. It's Tom Izzo in his press conferences was very, very, very adamant about just the schedule, right? Like you come off of December, you play 2 Big Ten games against Northwestern and who was the other one?
Penn State.
Yes, Penn State. That's the one. I was like, it's not Nebraska. But then you go into going into January, right? You have a ton of days off, and you got Oakland, Buffalo, like that very, very, very easy stretch.
Right.
But Izzo was very adamant about the Big Ten scheduling and not having enough time to practice. I mean, think about it, right? So like Michigan State just played Michigan on Saturday, and then Tuesday they played against Wisconsin, another tough team. Then 3 days after that they play Illinois. 3 days after that they play Purdue. Like that is not an easy thing to do. So
right.
That was his whole thing. And it's hard. It's tough. So Michigan State got the win, though. It was interesting, too, because Izzo was like, if we won 2 of the 3, that would be a good thing. So,
yep.
I don't know.
So I have a little bit about the Michigan game, since you and I haven't talked about that since that game happened. And then I have a bunch of stuff about the Wisconsin win, too. Should we just start with Michigan? Are you good to go?
Yeah, I'm good to go. I mean, we don't have a guest today, so it's not like we have
Yeah,
anything else to talk about. It's just us. Just a casual, fun-filled episode.
Right. So let's talk about Michigan State's win over Michigan. The Wolverines came to the Breslin Center. Breslin Center was packed. It was not a great game by either team, in my opinion. MSU came away with the win, 59-53. I have some takeaway points. Do you have any takeaway points just off the top of your head?
I mean, I know you're probably going to mention the shooting. It wasn't great. Neither team really shot the ball very well.
Right.
Both coaches, it was funny. They were, well, I think it's more Juwan Howard said this, but he's like, it's great defense, And I was like, yeah, but
Yeah, it just seemed that neither team was really performing the way that I expected them to perform, which is fine because they were on the same level. And MSU came away with the win, so that's also why it's fine. But I just was kind of expecting more or some breakaway leaders. And on either team, there was kind of just from everybody. So, number one thing that I noticed was that A.J. Hoggard played as a mature leader. He just commanded the court, and this is something I've mentioned over and over and over that I've wanted from him. And I've wanted some more maturity, and I wanted to see it. And I saw it in the Michigan game, and I also saw it in the Wisconsin game. So I've been super happy with the way that A.J. Hoggard has been playing. Any opinions on that?
Yeah, I think I always, how do I say this? Izzo, it seems, it's funny to me, right? Like Izzo always seems like he demands more from A.J. Hoggard than other players. Mm-hmm. So there is that. I think that he's really sort of stepped up, as you would say.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and I think Izzo knows what AJ can do, and he knows that maybe AJ is the type of kid that needs that expectation and needs to be pushed in that direction. And I think it's working. So I'm happy with that. I'll talk a little bit more about AJ when we talk about the Wisconsin game, but I was very happy. I was impressed by Kohler against Dickinson. There was multiple times where, he kind of subbed in and I, was a little bit nervous. And I just felt like he handled himself really well in a big game like that. And there was a couple times that I just was like, yeah, Kohler did exactly what he needed to do. And I was happy with how things went. Anything to say about Kohler?
Who do you think... No, but I have a question for you. Who do you think the freshman with the highest ceiling on this team is?
That's a good question. I really like Trey Holloman. He's going to be a guy that needs time with Izzo. I really like him, but I think Kohler probably has the highest ceiling, just based off how they're playing right now.
I would agree with that. I think that Holloman is sort of the guy that, or at least this is from what it seems like, Holloman's going to be the guy who, in his senior season, senior season, he's really sort of stepped up to the table. Yep. Not so much to the extreme of like a Mady Sissoko. Mady Sissoko is just, sort of on another level, I think, at this point. But I guess what I'm getting at, though, is a guy who really comes into his own later in his years. Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and I maybe have talked about this before, but Izzo has a process of developing guys, and it takes time for him to get their conditioning up the way that he wants and kind of build them up coaching wise. And I feel like in his system, those guys that are his 4-year guys, they'll blossom in their junior and senior year and be exactly what he needs as leaders at that time. I feel like he just works them so well and plans ahead to have those leaders and develops them so well. I think Trey or Holloman is one of those guys.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Only 2 more things about the Michigan game. So Hauser really did not have himself a very good game. I just felt like I didn't just feel like it. He wasn't shooting well. he just seemed nervous and off, and we haven't really seen that from him this season. I think it just being the important game that it was, maybe that went to his head a little bit. But I feel like he bounced back in the Wisconsin game, so maybe it was just the opponent and, the nerves that come with playing your rival.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great shooting game for either team, and
True,
it felt like
true.
it was contagious the entire game. Like nobody was knocking shots.
Right, that is true.
It was weird. It was a weird game. I guess the large point that I'm making is it was just so funny to see Juwan Howard be like, oh, great defense, And I don't know, like I'm not gonna break down basketball like better than Juwan Howard. I'm not gonna say that,
Really?
No, Jesus, but it was just funny because his team shot, I don't even know the stat, but it was like such a bad shooting percentage from three. Like, I think at one point it was 15%, and I'm like, that is like 1 out of, 8 or something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not good by any means. And I mean, even that's being generous. So.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say about the Michigan game is that Hunter Dickinson ended the game with an air ball in the Breslin. Probably, maybe, his last game ever at Breslin, and that just warms my little heart to think about. Sometimes when I'm, having a bad day ever since then, I'll just think, remember when Hunter Dickinson airballed his last shot ever in the Breslin, and then my day's better. So that's all I have to say about that.
Do you remember those screenshots that were going around where Hunter Dickinson was like, like that?
Yes.
And he was up like 2-0 or whatever, or 3-2.
Against Eastern Michigan, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
there was I don't know who it was, and I could pull it up on Twitter because I think I liked it, but there was a picture of Hunter flexing as hard as he could, and then there was a picture of Joey Hauser not flexing, and Joey had so much more muscle than Dickinson did.
It was unbelievable, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
just last night, MSU went to the Wisconsin Badgers and walked away with a win. You mentioned this earlier. I was not sure that they were going to walk away with a win. There was multiple times throughout the game I was like sitting on the edge of my seat, sweating a little bit. But it worked out just as, in Michigan State basketball fashion, right down to the wire. The final score was 69-65, and throughout the game there was 13 lead changes. So it was kind of up in the air the whole time. Did you watch the game? What were your kind of like overall thoughts?
So I was between watching the game. I was, God, what was going on yesterday? Oh, I remember. Yeah, so I was watching the game. It's sort of funny. So I don't know how familiar you are with video games. Okay, but so the last college football video game, because of legal, I promise this is gonna get into the Wisconsin game. Okay, but. So anyway, the story starts with video games, and the last college football video game that came out was in 2013. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a mod that you can get where if you have that game and you have a PC or an Xbox or PlayStation from when that game came out, you can play the game. So like I bought myself a PS3. I already had NCAA Football 14 for it. And so literally while I was watching the game, I was trying to install College Football Revamped, which is the mod for the PlayStation 3. So I had to jailbreak my PlayStation 3, and I also had to download and install that mod. So that took me about the entire length of the Michigan State basketball game. And on top of that, I was making graphics for halftime and final score. So it was just a lot was going on. Yeah. And then I flipped back and forth between the Red Wings game. But yes, I saw a lot of it. I have a couple of thoughts.
Okay.
First of all, okay? So the first thing is that I think I have two comments, and both of them are true. Both of them are mutually exclusive.
Okay.
Right? Or not mutually exclusive. Sorry. The first thing is that Michigan State had a ton of turnovers, and that was very baffling for a team that didn't have turnover problems all season long.
Yep.
Right? So that's a problem, right? On the other hand, I am surprised that Michigan State won because of the turnover issues, right? Like Wisconsin also didn't have Tyler Wall. Yep. So that, I feel like, is the other comment where it's like if he would have played, Wisconsin would have won by 10. But if Michigan State even had half the turnovers they had, they also would have won by like 10. I mean, the only reason they didn't run away with that game is because they kept shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah. Well, to give some stats on those turnovers, they had 14 total, and Wisconsin scored 27 points off of those 14 total turnovers. So, like, a huge deal in a game that is so close.
And it's stupid because 27 points is like a whole half.
Yeah.
That is a whole entire half of basketball.
Yeah. I just feel like they looked rattled, and I understand to a certain point, but I understand how hard it is to go on the road and play in the Big Ten. So that probably was part of it. It just
I also
looked.
think, and I could be wrong, but I also think that some of it is because Wisconsin is a very good team at forcing turnovers.
That is true. Yes.
So there is that. It was on the road anyway.
I just saw some errors from guys that like usually aren't sloppy with the ball or like don't usually make those mistakes. They rushed it, and I think it was just nerves maybe. And I think that played a part in that.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but so my guy of the game again, I'm super, super impressed with AJ Hoggard. I didn't know this, but the announcers for the game said that he is third in the league in assists.
Wow.
I didn't know that, but that's huge.
That's crazy.
He showed amazing poise at the end of the game. There was a specific play. Okay, so yeah, they were tied. We were tied at Michigan State and Wisconsin were tied at 63. AJ stepped up huge on offense to get us to tie up the game. And then he made an insanely smart choice on defense to not foul Hepburn on a 2, which was just, and I just saw it and I thought, that was something he wouldn't have thought of before. He would have fouled and then he would have maybe thrown a little bit of a fit. But he pulled back, let Hepburn get the 2, and didn't prolong the game with a foul. It just was a really important sequence for what I've been wanting for him, and I was impressed. That's all. Very specific, but I just think it speaks to his maturity and that he has gained some of that just in this year alone from what we saw early in the season. To kind of go back, this is just a quick comment. There was a moment in the first half where turnovers were plaguing the team, like things were kind of going downhill. 3 Spartans, and I don't know exactly who it was, were standing there getting like the defensive rebound, and Chucky Hepburn, who's not a big guy, kind of just like snuck in there and took the ball away from 3 Spartans that were just standing around, not really doing anything right. And I just was like, I bet they're going to get yelled at for that later, because it was just like so unlike them just to kind of let the ball drop and not really get the rebound. So when that happened, I again was like getting sweaty and being like, this game's over. Like they're not gonna play. They don't even want it. Obviously, things turned out differently, but that was a moment I was like, eesh, not good.
Right.
Yeah. Just to kind of close this out, Joey Hauser has had 6 double-doubles this season.
Wow.
And the Wisconsin, I think that's what they said on TV, the Wisconsin game was his 12th in his career. So he has had 12 over his whole career, and 6 of them are coming on this season.
Wow.
I feel like that's huge. And I think that speaks to what I've been talking about with Joey, that he has stepped up so much from where he was the past couple seasons that we've watched him.
Yeah, definitely. He's come a long way from when he was at Marquette, for sure.
Yeah. Overall, now MSU is 4-1 on the top with Purdue. That's huge because
7-game winning streak too.
yeah, we will see Purdue soon, which is going to be a big game at home, which is important.
If Michigan State can split the home and home, if they can do that against Purdue, that would be incredible.
Huge.
Because they play them, I think, what is that, in a month, I think?
I think so.
I think they do it. It's like they got the Purdue game, and then within the next month, they play Purdue again.
They play at Purdue,
Purdue, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be insane. That would look so good heading into tournament time and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, think about where this team was when they lost at the Phil Knight Invitational.
Yeah,
and they finished, right? Like I mean, now they've won 7 straight in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they had 4 losses, and you thought this team was going downhill.
I know. I
mean,
was
when
nervous.
they lost against I think Northwestern was really where the nerves started kicking in, because I wasn't sure, where this team was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Northwestern, and obviously they've played a much easier schedule since then, but I think starting with 3 straight Big Ten wins on the second half of the year, I think that sort of goes into some of that.
Well, that's huge. And being able to kind of like grind out this win against Wisconsin shows what they can do, and I'll be expecting that they can at least, perform well on the road against most of the teams that we have coming up. Some of them, obviously, and like I've said before, road games are hard, but I'm expecting good things.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to say, which kind of like circles back to what I've said before, AJ gave a great TV interview after the game. Praised the other team, kind of talked about his teammates, talked about their game plan, and he was super well spoken, really mature about it all, and like answered the questions perfectly. And I just thought he's a different guy than what he was before, and I'm super happy with it. So anytime I can talk about AJ Hoggard being mature, I'm going to talk about it. Just be prepared for that.
Cool.
That is all I have as a recap. Next, Michigan State takes on Illinois at Illinois on Friday.
Right, and that will be interesting because it just feels like such a, I hate to use the word trap game, but Illinois is a tough team, right?
They are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will be interesting to see what they can do on the road, back to back.
Right. So first off, that's cool. We love that. We're very excited. Secondly, I've been brainstorming a couple of things that we can do for the show, specifically in the way of, whether it's trivia, whether it is, I know you have a segment coming up in just a moment.
Yeah.
I did kind of want to go forward on the trivia segment and
do
some Michigan State trivia. So
okay,
how
nervous.
much do you know? How much do you know in terms of Michigan State? I'm going to start you with a basketball question, so it's going to be easier.
If they're like really niche, and if they're like from a long time ago, I might not do as well. I might surprise myself. I've been at MSU for a long time now, so I feel like I've picked up some trivia things. I've been to Crunchy's trivia a couple times, collected some good questions from there, but give them to me and we'll see how I do.
Okay, well, we are going to find out the answer when we get back from break.
Okay.
But here is your question.
Okay, I'm nervous.
I feel like this is too easy now that I'm saying it.
Just say it then. Good, it'll boost my confidence.
Who is Michigan State's single-season leader in steals all time?
All time.
All time.
In steals. Is it
tough? Well,
can you give me 3 choices?
I'm not going to make it multiple choice, but I will tell you the answer right after this. Today's episode is sponsored by Nudge Printing, quality collegiate apparel from 2 quality MSU alums in Gabe and Brittany. All of their products are made in Michigan. You can visit nudgeprinting.com and use the code TRYUS for $10 off of any Michigan State t-shirt. I think I meant to tell you this, Sydney, but because for Christmas, I don't know if you got any cool gifts, but and I know we've been talking about Nudge Printing and their stuff or whatever. But I remember talking about how much I loved my Michigan State logo, like hockey T-shirt. Mm-hmm. So Katie, my wife, got me a sweatshirt of that for Christmas, which was pretty cool.
How comfortable is it?
Oh my God. It's interesting because at first I wasn't sure of the style because it's got this like, I don't know if it's like breathable or whatever, but it's got these like lines in them. Mm-hmm. I think I've come to, just from a fashion standpoint, I've come to, appreciate that. But it is still very comfortable. It's also like surprisingly warm. Like for some reason, I'm always of the opinion, I'm always expecting the worst, from sweatshirts or clothes, because I only have one sweatshirt that's warm, and it's I don't know if you're familiar with the Canadian company Roots, but that's the only sweatshirt I will wear. That it's like North Face, but much better, and it's Canadian.
Okay.
But that is the only sweatshirt that I will wear that is like warm, and I could add this to my collection. So, by the way, tell your dog that I said hi.
He's a big guy. He's I don't know, to dog lovers out there, his name's Louie, and he is a Great Pyrenees, so he's 150 pounds. And so when you hear him barking, there's not much I can do about it because he does way more than I do.
Right. What is he, chasing the mailman? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. So the answer to the trivia question, I'm going to give you a guess and let's remind our listeners and viewers the question, which was, who is Michigan State's all-time single season? Okay, so I know that's a little confusing. So Michigan State's single season leader in steals.
So like the single season thing, I have a guess as like guys that will be on the top like overall. The single season thing, I'm gonna guess Draymond Green.
No.
Okay, well, that's my guess.
Well, you tried. So I do want to find out where the who is the career. Okay, so Draymond Green is actually number 2 in regards to all-time career leaders. Okay. He has 180 from 2008 to 2012, right?
Awesome.
And Mateen Cleaves has 195 from 1996 to 2000. So that's your leader all time.
All time leaders. Okay.
But
I should have thought it's hard for me to think single season.
Well, single season's also hard because some guy could have played here for one season, whereas if a player is much more likely to have, over a period of time. For the career leaders, they're probably going to be here for 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So
tell me.
The answer is, drum roll please. The answer is Magic Johnson.
That makes sense. I mean,
makes sense. From 1978 to 1979, he had 75 steals.
Okay. Wow.
In a season. Mateen Cleaves was 2 steals away from breaking that record. Yeah. In the 97-98 season, he had 73.
Okay.
The year before Magic Johnson had 75, by the way, he had 71.
Okay.
So
where is Draymond on the list of single season? Is he even?
He is 6th, tied with Daryl Johnson. Daryl Johnson had 60 from 1986 to 87. Green had 60 from 2010 to 11. Okay. So
who's between that? Can you kind of list it out to me? Who's started the top and list it out to me?
As far as single season goes?
Yeah, I just want to know down until Draymond Green, who else is in there?
So first is Magic Johnson with 75 at 78, 79. Mateen Cleaves is second with 73 from 97 to 98. In I'm sorry, in 77 to 78, Magic Johnson to 71.
Yep.
Mateen Cleaves had another high steal season from 98 to 99. He had 69. Nice. Gary Harris had 63 from 2013 to 14. And then Draymond Green is sixth, tied at 60 with Daryl Johnson. Braden Dawson is on the list. Brandon Dawson. Sorry, I misread that.
That's okay.
57 from 2012 to 13, tied with Eric Snow. Travis Walton and Antonio Smith are both in 10th with 56.
Okay.
So, a single game steals leader is Mateen Cleaves from 1997 during the 1997-98 season against Minnesota.
Okay.
Daryl Johnson had 8 in a game, along with Greg Kelser against Northwestern. Jason Richardson had 7 against Purdue. Greg Kelser had 7 against Indiana, and Magic Johnson's highest was 7 against Michigan.
Ooh, that's so good.
So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. That was a good question.
That was a good question. I can't wait for Super Bowl week because that is going to be when my favorite question comes out. I've already asked you this, though, so it's not going to be as much of a spoiler.
I have to remember.
Yeah, but you can't say the right answer anyway because that would eliminate the suspense.
We'll see.
We'll see.
That's a good question. I hope we can continue to do that. If anyone watches our episodes and has any good trivia questions that they'd like us to talk through, put it in the comments because that would be super fun.
It will be. I can't wait.
So the only other thing that I kind of wanted to recap before we go into maybe like a totally different type of segment, do you have any notes about Michigan State's matchup in hockey against Ohio State?
So I'm actually working on a story right now about Michigan State's season and where it's going. It's so hard to identify what the problems are for this team. I think I don't want to say that. I guess it's not the right word that it's hard. It's just I think so many Michigan State fans who follow the hockey team are right now have PTSD from last year, right? Like it's like deja vu. Like at the beginning of last season, they were not thought to go anywhere. Then Michigan State almost sneaks into the rankings.
Did I lose you
So they're
again?
like on the cusp.
Is it me?
What's that?
Hello?
Hello? I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Oh my god.
Weird. So, as I was saying, sorry, I'm trying to remember where I was at. So Michigan State's last season, they had they were receiving votes. They were in the poll. They were so close. They were on the cusp, about December. They were on the cusp of being considered for the NCAA tournament, right? And in hockey, there's this thing called the pairwise, which is very similar to how you would rank, say, a basketball victory. So, in basketball, they have quad 1 wins, they have quad 4 wins. That's how they basically decide how good your team is, right? So, in hockey, there's a very similar formula. And what they do is they call it the pairwise. And basically, it compares the parity of every team and puts and values their wins and their losses. And so, for example, if since Penn State is doing so well, if Michigan State loses to Penn State, that's not such a bad loss. Whereas if Michigan State lost to Penn State and then Penn State started losing, that's a bad loss.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Right, that of course.
Yeah.
And so last year they were about 16 or so on the pairwise, and remember only 16 teams get into the final. So while the pairwise does not immediately reflect which teams will end up in the NCAA tournament, there is some for the most part, if you're in the top 12 or 14, you can pretty much guarantee to be getting in, right? So Michigan State was doing well in that last year, and then they lost their captain, and then they lost the last 15 of their 16 last games.
Yeah.
Which was not good at all, right? And it was infuriating, and that's why I was so concerned when Michigan State said they might bring Danton Cole back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, dude, you didn't do anything in the last year, and that was just whatever. But I have some sort of cautious optimism to believe that it's Adam Nightingale that's going to not let it get this bad. Mm-hmm. Basically, and this isn't to give any spoilers for my article, but I'm just basically the analysis that I have at this moment is that Michigan State is can identify their problems. They know why they're losing. It's a lack of offense and their special teams just sucks. So at least there's that. And whereas when I listened to Danton Cole speak last year, it seemed like he was just grasping for sticks, trying to figure out what the answer was. And so that's I just think that's why like I feel so much more optimistic about this season getting better. There's also the fact that Michigan State is not as bad. Like even though they're on a losing streak right now, there is at least some sort of relief, I guess, that the season's not over yet. So there's still so much time to turn it around, and Michigan State is starting to they're making changes. Like Nightingale is making obvious changes, and you can tell that he's making these changes. Like he's gone and he started to practice in the morning, because that's what you do in the NHL. You skate, you have a morning skate, and you skate and practice in the morning, and that's important to him. So he's doing things. He knows what he needs to do to get this program to where it needs to go. I am just I guess it's concerning, because again, you had last year, and you don't know what's going to happen. But I will say that this is the last thing. Michigan State has everything in front of them. Here are the Big Ten standings. Okay, so you got Minnesota is at the top. They got 30 points. Okay, at 23. It's at 23. No, it's 22 points. 22 points is where. In second place is Penn State. Okay. One of my things just fell down. I couldn't tell if you heard that. So in second place, so first place Minnesota with 30, and Penn State is second with 22. Mm-hmm. Ohio State has 21. Okay, they're in third, and Michigan State has 20. Then Notre Dame is down at 15 points. So, everything's in front of them. Like Michigan State plays Penn State at home this weekend.
I'll be there.
Will you really? That's incredible.
Will you?
Yes, I will.
Okay, I'll come say hi.
It's going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. So with a sweep of Penn State, Michigan State would literally jump into second place, assuming that, if Ohio State only wins one of their games this weekend. And they play, I think they play Michigan. You know what I mean? So, like, everything's in front of them. Like the only team that's really not going to go anywhere is Minnesota. The only team that can't go anywhere is Wisconsin, because Wisconsin's just that bad. But also Minnesota is just that good, right? Mm-hmm. Like Minnesota has 30 points, and they, I presume, will win the Big Ten. And Michigan will end up in the top 3. So that's really the only thing that's going to change in the Big Ten, is just the battling between 2 and 6 spots, So again, the whole season's ahead of them, and Michigan State returns to home this weekend to play Penn State, which is exciting because Michigan State has not won a game since beating Michigan at home. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
I'll do my best to cheer them on, because they need a win, as you said.
Yeah, they do. And, they only scored 1 goal last weekend against Ohio State. Mm-hmm. They only scored 1 goal. It's tough. I think, I don't know. I mean, you just don't want to see this thing fall off the rails. I don't think that it will, but I'm just, I think people are nervous.
Well, with what you said, what we saw last season, that, a little PTSD from that, but also things have been way better this
Right.
season than they have in the past, and to have that all go away now at this point would be just heartbreaking. So I agree.
I mean, Michigan State has not had a winning season since, I don't know, it's almost been a decade. You know what I mean?
Long time, yeah.
So yeah, and they haven't made the tournament since 2012. Michigan State is still like about, I think they're like 17 in the pairwise, which means they would almost get in. So I don't know. I mean, what's funny is, and this is maybe a little off topic, but what's funny is maybe Michigan State might have to worry about whether they make the tournament or not, because I think it's so. And I don't know if they're going to do this, but I don't know if you heard about the NCAA proposal. I don't know if you'd be on board with this, so they said that any sport, this is just a proposal, okay? They approved it, and they sent it to a committee, and the committee votes on it. Well, this proposal would say that if you have a sport that has, like, I think it's 200-plus teams, then I think it's, like, how much is it? I think it's 25% of the teams go to the tournament, which would mean 90 basketball teams would be in the NCAA basketball tournament. And then it would move up from 68 to 90 teams. And then but any other sport that has less than that would be 50%. And in college hockey, there's only 70-some teams. So that would mean that there's a 32-team NCAA hockey bracket. And, I mean, that's the whole Big Ten. Like even Wisconsin is, as bad as I've said that they are not worse than 32.
Yeah.
Like, if they went against, it's like comparing Central Michigan to, any other team. Like Central Michigan is bad. They're not gonna. But like even if in a good Central Michigan year, like they're not going to be as good as the worst Big Ten team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like Northwestern. Like Northwestern is not, even as bad as, well, they've actually been pretty bad, but
I just like that you chose CMU for that analogy since they beat Michigan. But anyways, moving on.
The only reason I was more, I guess, thinking along the lines of like football. I think.
Yeah. Either way.
Because I was just playing college football revamped, and the team I chose my dynasty as was Central Michigan. So.
That's funny. I feel like, first of all, from a scheduling standpoint, that sounds like a nightmare to get all those games on TV or for people to watch. That would be insane. 90 teams. But from a fan standpoint that loves to live in front of the TV screen during March Madness, I'd eat that up. So,
you know what would be
hard to say.
You know what would be interesting? And this is, I do not know if they would do this, but I would love a play-in tournament to get to the tournament.
That'd be crazy.
Like, expand the first four. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, literally, you just, like, instead of the first four, it's like the first 30,
How crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And how long, how long would that take to get to the national championship?
No.
That would be crazy.
Here's what you do. Double headers. You just have these guys playing like twice in a day.
Wow.
That is the solution.
Wow. Every stadium in America would have to be used to get all those games in.
I mean, the funny thing is though, is it's not like they're doing, it'd be any different from what we're doing now. Yeah,
it would just be a bigger version.
At the same time, and I know this is just a money thing, I am also like a very big proponent of getting the college football playoff. Like, I want that to be bigger because I just like seeing more important games with important players. Yeah, well, I mean, just as how I feel about the basketball thing, watching more teams get to play on that stage is enjoyable no matter what. But does it take away, let me ask you this, does it take away the specialty of getting to that point and being only the few teams that make it to that point? Does it make it less special? So that's kind of the balancing act, right? So like you want the regular season to still matter. You still want
Right.
like you know what I mean, because in
Right.
college football, critics of the expansion are very, very like, they're like, oh, if Michigan beats Ohio State, I mean, you just saw, Ohio State and Michigan almost rematch in the championship game. Like, how funny would that be to see Michigan beat Ohio State, in Columbus, and then for whatever reason Ohio State beats Michigan in the national championship game?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that would have been hilarious to watch because Michigan did their job. They beat their team that they were supposed to beat in the regular season. Like, you'd think that you would get rewarded for that, but instead,
Right.
no, like, now you have to win. But here's my thing, is that's how it is in every sport. Like, it's, you have to win your games when they matter. I mean, do you think
Right.
that the winner of the World Series is always the team that's done the best the whole season?
Right.
Right,
Yeah,
no,
that's not
it's
how it
just the
works.
teams-
Yeah.
Just the teams that get to that point and then win those games. That's
Yeah,
that's your job.
Yeah.
The only concern I
Yeah.
think that I was going to say about the NCAA men's basketball tournament, though, is that everyone, I feel like, would get in.
Yeah.
Like, Michigan State would not have to worry. Like,
Right.
I think that at that point you have two teams, or not even two teams, but just you have teams who are Power 5. Well, I say Power 5 like this is football, but I mean, like, you
Like
have
blue
they're
blood.
big programs, right? They're big programs. Like, I'm thinking Gonzaga. I'm
Yeah, blue
thinking
bloods, yeah.
Michigan. I'm thinking Michigan State, right? Like, these programs have, even in a bad year, their worst year ever, they
Right.
would always get in the tournament.
Right.
And I think that right now we have a nice balance where, like, even if Michigan State does bad one year, like, they still have to work to get to the tournament, right? Like, Michigan right now is a bubble team,
Yeah.
right? And, like, they're on a pretty bad year. But, like, if in a 90-team field,
Yeah, that stuff
you know
won't
what
matter.
I mean?
Right.
Like, unless you give these bigger conferences less at-large spots, or I don't know how it would work, but I'm just thinking, like, there's no reason why it would go to that extreme. And
I
again,
just
it's
don't
a money
think.
thing. It's a money
Yeah,
thing.
I just don't think it's necessary because I believe that that tournament is perfect the way that it is, and it goes perfectly every year. And you get some of those sprinkled teams in that, like, those Cinderella type schools, and that's always exciting. But I think if there was, like, an overabundance of that, it wouldn't be as exciting and it wouldn't be as special. And I think I would be less interested in watching those, like, oddball games because there'd be so many of them,
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the team that comes to mind, I think, the most is UCLA. And while they're not like Butler or Davidson or, Loyola Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Like, they aren't that. But UCLA is from a pretty big conference, and they sort of surprised everybody when they went to the Final Four. I mean, first of all, Michigan should have never lost that game against, where they never scored 50. But, that's neither here nor there. I think I'm mainly talking about UCLA in the terms of, like, they got in as an 11 seed. They beat MSU, right? And then, and then they go on and they go to the Final Four. Like, that is surprising. That is cool to watch. Like, a team that sort of wasn't thought or pegged as anything, and they suddenly are a really big team. But I feel like if you end up adding, like, more rounds and the more rounds you add, the more random it gets.
Yeah.
And I don't know that like I don't know that you will even have the best teams winning the whole thing.
Yeah, well, and especially, like you said, like, if they're scheduling stuff where it's, like, back-to-back games and, like, they're traveling, like, in the middle of the night to get to the next game, and, like, that's going to throw a wrench into everything also. And I think part of the tournament, the way it is now, is that, like, you have games pretty close together, but your good teams get the rest that they need to play their best games, which is important.
No, I mean, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
I can't wait for March Madness. You got me all hyped up about it. Let me just say, March Madness, when that comes around and it's time for that on the podcast, you are going to think that I'm crazy. I fill
We
out
gotta
like
do our own bracket.
I fill out like multiple brackets. I have them like taped on the fridge.
We have to do one against each other.
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, that's perfect.
Exactly. Perfect.
Sometimes, like as March Madness is approaching, I'll like listen to the One Shining Moment song just like by itself, like at night, just to get myself pumped up, or if I'm like headed to go and play soccer, I'll be like, I need something to pump me up, something to just bring a quick tear to my eye, so I'm ready to go. That song's so beautiful. I'm just thinking about it. Anyways, I love March Madness, and I think you're right. When that comes along, we'll have to do some special stuff here for it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say to end off the recap kind of part of our episode today?
No, that's it. I know you got some exciting stuff planned.
Yeah, we'll see how the next part goes. Thanks for tuning in to this section of the pod, and I hope that you stick around and check out our next section, because I've put a lot of hard work into this.